Hello, Dave. Hello, everyone. Welcome
Hi,
back to
Annika.
this thing we do now. It's good to be together again. Last time, we're just going to jump right into it. Last time we were together, last time Dave and I recorded, we were talking about perseverance. And perseverance, as James saw it, and what he told us we would get if we persevered, which was the crown of life. And talking about what the crown of life means for us, that it's not a gold medal. It's not actually winning what you're trying to chase and catch. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and look back at the video before this, which I think is episode 10. This is episode 11.
Holy moly.
I know. Well, we've done 11 of these.
Jeez.
If we survive this one.
Right.
We'll see. So today we're going to talk not just about perseverance, but take it a step further and talk about expectations and what God has to say about those and how that relates to being able to persevere and stay in things for the long haul. Dave, why don't you set us up a little bit and talk about expectations and how they connect to our perseverance.
And this is where we ended last time, and I thought we'd pick it up here because I think it's a really important thing to touch on. And I think it's actually something that when we think about it, it has more to do with perseverance than we might think, and staying in it and all those things. Because when I think of expectations, one of the things I can feel in my own spirit when I have an expectation about something, and let's just make it some idealistic thing. There are reasonable expectations. But sometimes we have these fanciful, romantic things like the way it ought to be. And it's just not, that's not how life works. You have this expectation that it will. But what happens is often it turns into a demand. And the way you can kind of tell it's a demand is that when the expectation isn't met, whatever it is, you're really, can I say pissed? Yeah. You're really that indignant. We have rights. I mean, this kind of thing about demands and expectations, it really does fly in the face of, and it's kind of a confrontation on just this culture, us, but like we are full of what we think our rights are. We're told it all the time. And Annika, you and I were talking earlier because we don't see it. It's very unseemly in an adult, but we don't always see it in ourselves. But little kids are always screaming about like that something's not what? It's not fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what do you say? Well, life's not fair.
Right.
But it looks stupid and childish in a kid. But we have a lot more of that than we sometimes know. There was something on the news the other day. I can't even remember what the issue was, but there was a lady in a car driving by and just screaming out her window. And it had to do with how indignant she was about something that she knew was her right to have or do or be in some place. I don't know exactly what the issue was, but the rage just came from this place of how dare you, and her expectations weren't getting met, and there was no integrity or there was no winsomeness in that lady at all. It's like the darkest parts of us get exposed when stuff like that happens. So I think that question, and this is a question actually that came to me when I was going through the book of Matthew, actually, and I was just looking at things in the scriptures and how people in the text were reacting and things that Jesus was saying and letting it bounce off my own spirit because you have expectations. What were you expecting when you first said yes to this Jesus journey? When you first said yes, and I was a little kid, so I mean, I had I expected I was going to heaven. I had expectations that were childish and they needed to be weaned away, and there was nothing wrong with them, but I expected, everything to go fine and be good and protect me and I'll never get sick. And, but when I said yes to Jesus, I had no idea where that was going to bring me, what it would change in me, what it would cost me. Same with you. And it would bump up every time. It would cost something more than I thought it would bump into an expectation. And I'd either go into that indignant place, which I would maybe for a while, or you go, oh, okay. I guess following Jesus in this place is another part of what it looks like to have faith when it's not turning out the way I want, and you let go of an expectation. Same thing in a marriage. I mean, we touched on this in the last one, where it'd be interesting just to get inside and see the dialogue of the air. What's that little circling cartoon where you see what they're really saying?
The little bubbles.
Right. What were you expecting when you married Prince Charming? That he wouldn't turn into a frog? Everybody knew he was a frog. Anyway. But the expectation in marriage is amazing. I talked to this friend of mine, Mike Anderson, who's a therapist, and we used to talk about this for a long, long time, around just expectations that he would see couples had of each other. And it would be that, you would meet all my needs, and that's a little extreme, but what were you expecting when it turned out to be a flawed human being you married? And I think there are things that can blow up in a marriage that are very destructive, and there are reasons why it's not safe to be with a certain person. I get all that. But I also see that there's enough of that. You don't do it for me anymore, and you're flawed, and what I expected you to do, you didn't do, and now we're done, kind of thing. Well, there's no perseverance in that at all. And when I was talking a couple seconds ago about some of this stuff began to bubble up for me, and I became more aware of it when I was going through various places in the scripture. I mentioned the Beatitudes, but it is interesting to me, and I think this is important, that, and again, this is kind of flying in the face of the culture, even Christian culture at times, that it's like right up front, Jesus, Peter, Paul made it clear, just want you to know going in, you guys, in this world, you will have trouble. John 16:33. 1 Peter 4:12, Peter says, and I think this is like, I just hear, a father saying this, or a mother, or we called James in our last session kind of a crusty, no-nonsense chemical dependency practitioner guy. And Peter says in 1 Peter 4:12, you guys, don't be surprised at the fiery ordeal, as if some strange thing is happening to you. I mean, let's grieve it, let's feel it, let's go through it. But holy moly, why are you acting surprised? Life is hard. Right up front, in this world, you will have trouble. And so what I hear Peter saying in 1 Peter 4:12, don't be surprised. What he's saying is, what are you expecting? That's exactly what he's saying there. When I was a little kid, we used to sing this song in church, and it's not an evil song, but it became an expectation. It's just like Jesus to roll the clouds away. It's just like Jesus keeping David, Jesus all along the way. But okay, fine, song, teach it to little kids. But it becomes an expectation. I expect Jesus to roll the clouds away. So what if he doesn't? And he doesn't. So what do you got to deal with the expectation, and you just bump into it. And that's not a big one, except it kind of is when people are still praying, like earnestly, the God change the weather for the little kid's birthday party when people are whatever. It's just like, and then they're shocked when it rains anyway. Or, oh God, I didn't want to get into the weather thing. It was just a God thing that it, yeah. Really? Anyway. Mike Anderson talks a lot about this thing he calls the deal. And we've had conversations about this, that a lot of what we call faith is really a deal. We have this, and it's an unspoken one. We don't know we're doing it. But the deal is, okay, God, I'm going to go to church, which is boring as blue, okay? Or I'm going to not have sex before marriage, or I'm going to be a good boy, but you take care of me, and you make sure my kids are fine. And those are, in many ways, reasonable things to expect. But we even develop theologies around God's protection. And I think when we think like we're shocked. Don't be shocked as if some strange thing happens to you when you got cancer, when you got sick, when someone died. And I sound callous when I'm saying that. I'm not saying don't grieve. I'm not saying let's go all the way down to the bottom of that grief. But don't be surprised as if some strange, as if God has abandoned you and not kept his promise. Baloney. He's never promised this stuff we think, some of them, that we think he's promised. I will never leave you nor forsake you. That's a promise. While you're suffering, I will be with you there. Anyway, it's not like Jesus to roll the clouds away. I mean, it's, in fact, if I understand how people are formed, and I think I know something about that, and even how God, if he would do anything, he would roll the clouds in just to go deal with it, kid. Grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think he does that either, but more likely that than rolling them away.
Yeah. I think I might be going off script. You might not have an answer for this.
I have an answer for everything.
Perfect.
I do. And I may not tell it to you, but I have one. Go ahead.
If it's just Jesus, I don't. We're gonna have to stop recording.
Either that or a squirrel. Go ahead.
So we're faced with, all of us, unless we're living under a rock somewhere, faced with unmet expectations, disappointments, heartache, on any level. I was complaining earlier, I have a spot in my grass that I can't grow any new grass, or a bare spot in my yard. I cannot grow any new grass for the life of me, and it's aggravating me. So we can talk about the frustrations in our lives across the spectrum. So what do we do when faced with the reality that our expectations aren't being met? We're disappointed. We follow that all the way to the bottom. And where do we and how do we realign what God has promised us?
One, we've already said it, and you said it again. Be disappointed. Don't. We can put on happy talk and put Bible verses all over it, but be disappointed and be really sad and go all the way to the bottom of that, like you said. But even as you're saying that, and I'm thinking of the conversation we had before this about the grass and the leaky hose. Oh, and yeah. I remember what you said to me that was brilliant, was how it irritated you that your hose was leaky. And then you thought, what, like, that's not a problem. I mean, it's an irritation, but why do I let that thing bother me? And I honestly, I wonder if there is a process of recognizing expectations and letting go of some of them. It does remind me of this, what Richard Rohr has. I was going to mention this thing in his book, Adam's Return. He talks about the big pattern that's always true. You can't get rid of this. And basically, these are 5 initiation truths, if you will, into adulthood. And you're not really going to move into adulthood. You got to press into these things. The first one is that life is hard. And it's like I didn't expect it to be this hard, but I think there's been in the context of the church, but in the culture we live in too, there's this, we want to promise people a level of happiness and bliss and lack of difficulty, and you will never suffer, and every car is going to be so safe, you couldn't possibly hurt yourself. And we expect that. All great spirituality, he says, is what we do with our pain. All great spirituality has to do with what we do with our pain. The second one is worse than the first. His second initiation truth is you're not that important. Okay. I mean, wrestle that one down to, you're not that important. Your hose isn't that important. Your grass, nobody cares except you. But I care about grass too, so I'm not picking on you. But you brought it up.
You can pick on me.
I know, no. But that's I can sit in that. You're not that important, and I can literally, like a movie, play times when I thought I was. And I'm telling you, the havoc that gets wreaked in a family or in a church or in the staff when I think I'm all that important, and you're not. You're just not. You let that go. You're breathing different air. Your life is not about you. Well, then who's it about? I mean, if I'm not the star of my own show, your life is not about you, is when you come to a point where you are able to give yourself away. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross. He endured suffering for joy, but not his joy. Ours. He died. For us, he suffered. And that's, it's weird because I just think it's maturity. I'm describing heroes. That's how rare it is that people are able to accept that life is hard. You're not that important. How rare it is that people would embrace that their life is not about them. Fourth is that they're not in control. You're not in control. And I think that was like the expectations. I'm not aware of my expectations until I don't get what I want. And I go, whoa, I really wanted that because I'm really pissed. And I'm not aware of the things I'm trying to control until a lot of times I just come up exhausted. I'm going, what? Wait a minute. When did I have to have that? When did that become the thing I had to have a good day? And that kind of thing. And the fifth one is my favorite. You're going to die. No, I'm not. No, you're not. We all know we're going to die. None of us know we're going to die. Anyway, that's just acceptance of our mortality that ironically, when we press through those things, and we have to do it more than once, there comes this spacious way to live. You're not hanging on to your life, not hanging on to control. Doesn't have to be about you. You don't have to be the star of the show. I just, and that life is hard. It brings me back to those, it sucks. It's really hard. I mean, the job you're talking about is Chris, right?
Yeah.
And the incredible price he paid to get ready for that, test for that, do really well in that test, to become part of a SWAT team. And that has been altered in some ways, and who knows what the end of that's going to be. But it feels too early in his own grieving to go, life's hard. But it is, and he knows it though. Yeah. And he will eventually know that. But I think he just needs to be as disappointed as he is right now. And it goes for all sorts of people going through all sorts of things. More people died today, and not just of COVID. So. Anyway, there's another thing. Did you have something?
No, go ahead, go.
And it kind of all bleeds together, but and this is something else I noticed a long time ago, and it was going, whoa, this is weird. And I started, the first time I saw it in the text, I started sniffing it out, and then I just started finding it everywhere. And it's this strange connection in Scripture of suffering to joy, like they're connected. James 1:12, consider it all joy. Put it in the joy column when you meet various trials. No, I won't do it. No, but it's connected. Whether we understand it or not, like it or not, it's connected. Jesus said in Matthew 5, when he's talking about them, you're going to be persecuted and people are going to lie about you. And he says, rejoice and be glad when you suffer. When people insult you and speak evil about you falsely, rejoice and be glad. No. But they're stuck together. Again, they're stuck together. Philippians 1:29, this is a good one. Paul says, it's like he's talking about this. These are the benefits of being a follower of Jesus. For it has been granted to us, brethren, not only to believe in him, but to suffer for his sake. So rejoice. Ooh. Yeah, right. You won the lottery. It has been granted. We got it. We get to believe in him, and we get to suffer for his sake. No, right? I mean, there's this in all of us. There's that no. And then that one that is the best is Hebrews 12, verse 2. And consider him the author of our faith, Jesus, who endured the cross, despising the shame. And for the joy set before him, he suffered. Again, the suffering and the joy are connected. In Matthew 5, when Jesus was doing the Beatitudes, if you remember the context, he had just called the disciples. Matthew 4, he said that lachacharai thing, come follow me. They all followed. They see this amazing stuff where he's doing miracles and multitudes, but then he leaves the multitude, gets up on the side of the mountain, and for the first time begins to talk about the realities of the kingdom of God. Blessed are the poor in spirit. This power and stuff is real, but it's not going to come to those who think they know how and who think they can do it by themselves. Blessed are those who know they can't. Blessed are those who mourn. He goes down the list. Blessed are the meek. And they're all sitting there scratching their heads. And then he says, blessed are you when, not if, but when you are persecuted. And I mean, you can teach the text and, exegete all the Greek verbs and all that. But what's weird about it is this is the first thing he's telling them. And I'd save that for later,
Not a good marketing ploy.
No, not a good market. You don't sell them on this one. You don't tell them this the first day. Tells them the first day kind of thing. Blessed are you when you are persecuted and lied about. And guess what? They were persecuted. And they were spoken of falsely. And but then what question raises out of that, when he's recruiting them with blessed are you, rejoice and be glad when you're persecuted, is who would sign on for that? I mean, they knew up front. Yeah. 2 Timothy 4, Paul's talking to Timothy, and it's almost like it's his recruiting pitch to get him to come be his kind of disciple. He said, come suffer hardship with me. Come on, let's go. Let's go. We're going to go suffer hardship. But that's what you're signing on for. And who would do that? And it is a huge confrontation. I know you know this in the culture, the Christian culture, but we sell God. We don't tell people that very often. I mean, the junk that you see on TBN and all that, you're going to have a prettier wife, a bigger house, longer life, first class. You'll have the favor of God. And we put all these things together. It starts coming out like a deal. Like if you pray the right prayer, you have the right faith, you're going to get what you want. Healthy, wealthy, wise, all that garbage is a lie. And it's anyway. But it's the basis of like I want you to think that the key to success in America, and success means healthy life, pretty wife, blah blah blah, is pray the prayer the right way, believe the right thing, do this formula, and I'm telling you, here's the recruiting pitch: come suffer hardship with me. This is going to be hard because life is hard. You're not that important. We're all going to die, and God will be with you all through that thing. Anyway.
It reminds me of when Moses, I'm going to get this wrong, maybe I shouldn't even say it. I believe it's after the burning bush, and God is calling Moses. And he basically says, he argues with him. I love Moses for that. He always arguing with God.
Yeah.
I find myself doing, or bargaining.
Yeah.
I'm either bargaining or arguing with them.
Right. I love that. Yeah.
And he finally comes to the conclusion that he's like, okay, I'll go back. I'll go lead my people, but not without you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that happens
not
more than
without
once.
you. Yeah.
That it happened there, what you were talking about, but later on, I can't remember the exact text, but it was the people had been in the wilderness a while, and they were grumbling and complaining about wanting to go into the promised land. And then this is a bad paraphrase, but it was, God was kind of going, okay, you can go. Everything you can go. Everything you ever wanted, everything you ever dreamt of, all the milk and honey you can eat and drink, it's all yours, but I'm not going. And not just Moses, but the people said, nope. In fact, Moses' line at that point was, what do we have other than your presence? In all the world, that's who we are. We are a people of your presence, and I would rather be poor with you than rich without. And that was just a huge thing there. So anyway,
I think for me, that's what I hold on to, or try to find when those expectations that I thought I had aren't being met, or when I feel defeated, or it takes me a while to get there sometimes.
Oh yeah.
but I ultimately come back to, and if you want to be stupid about it, it's about my green grass. Okay, I'd rather have a pile full of dirt and have him with me.
Yeah. And and yes, and I get it, but it's like what the loss of him it's in the turmoil of our soul that
Yeah.
it's not like he's mad at us. It's not like that.
No.
No, at all. But that's exactly what it means. I'd like to give this little thing here. We don't get very teachy here, but that James 1:2, where he says, consider it joy when you meet various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its perfect result, that you're complete, perfect, lacking nothing, including joy. To let it have its perfect result, to consider it joy. This is the teachy part. I think you need to know some things. One, we need to know life is hard. We've already done that. We need to know that trials are part of the deal. It's just part of life. There's nothing, don't be surprised when that thing happens. We also know that trials produce something. And this is where I think in that verse, it's helpful. Consider it joy, knowing, it says, know this, that these trials can produce endurance. So we need to know some things, that trials produce some things, particularly endurance, which is a perseverance, which is what we talked about last time. But so we need to know some things, but we need to allow some things. Let endurance have its perfect result. Let this thing play out. Let it do its work in you. And letting it do its perfect, okay, let's use the grass, okay? Not exactly earth-shattering, but that's a great example because it's just so human,
Mm-hmm.
But part of letting it have its result in you is to let it reveal to you how it doesn't matter. I mean, you're already coming to that, but let it have its results in you. Go through that whole thing. Let you feel how empty that whole thing is. So you need to know some things that this can produce endurance. You need to allow some things, stay in the belly of the whale. Don't leave it too soon. Let this thing teach you. Allow yourself to feel it. The only way out is through. But third, for this to be turned to joy, you'd have to value some things. Like you'd have to value character and integrity, and you'd have to value endurance. You'd have to care about that to allow things to have their perfect result and not medicate it and bail out of it, demand a different outcome, hang on to control. And I wish it wasn't hard. In fact, I wrote that down too. I wrote this wish list a long time ago. I wish that you could get knowledge without study. I really wish that. I wish you could be wise without experience. I wish we could have seasons without winter. I wish you could rise to the top without paying our dues. I wish we could experience the peaceful fruit of righteousness without any discipline. Good luck. I wish we could experience reconciliation and never have to forgive. It doesn't work like that. That's all. So
I'm wondering if we should end with that Henry Nouwen reading.
I think it would be great.
Okay, let's do that.
Yep.
I was able to pull it up.
Good.
So this is from our wonderful friend, Henry Nouwen. He has a devotional that I read from, and this is from an excerpt from his book, Finding My Way Home.
Could you post that when you post the...
Yeah, absolutely. I'll put this in a picture of this in the comments below, and then a link to the devotional that I read from.
Good.
But this is Be Surprised by Joy. Learn the discipline of being surprised, not by suffering, but by joy. As we grow old, there is suffering ahead of us, immense suffering, a suffering that will continue to tempt us to think that we have chosen the wrong road. But don't be surprised by pain. Be surprised by joy. Be surprised by the little flower that shows its beauty in the midst of a barren desert. And be surprised by the immense healing power that keeps bursting forth like springs of fresh water from the depth of your pain. We'll leave it at that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, really good.
So join us, friends, in finding your way to being surprised by joy and not by our pain, by allowing our expectations to not be met. and to allow that to lead us back to God. What do we call him? He's the perfecter of our faith. See you, Dave. See you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks.